Welcome back to the Crypto Channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still being drawn towards this major area of liquidity as the Bitcoin dominance is continuing to run into this significant area of support. And in just 1 day from now, we have the next FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, which could potentially shake up the market in the short term. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, while Ethereum is possibly repeating a major warning signal. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video. So definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before talking about the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to talk about the upcoming FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, where essentially the Federal Reserve of the United States, the central bank, controls interest rates or decides on interest rates. And this next upcoming interest rate decision by the Federal Reserve will be happening at exactly 6 p.m. GMT on the 30th of July. So you can work that out with your own time zone. Once again, 6 p.m. GMT on the 30th of July, which is just over 1 day from now, almost exactly 1 day from now at the time of posting this video. And if we're taking a look at what the market is actually pricing in, first of all, the current expectations is no change in interest rates. And if we're taking a look at this futures market here, we can see that currently the market is pricing in around a 97% chance of no change in interest rates tomorrow and around a 3% chance of an interest rate cut. So reducing interest rates by 0.25% or 25 basis points. And basically all you need to know is that if we end up seeing this likely outcome of a 97% chance of no change in interest rates, basically that is the neutral outcome. Pretty much everyone is expecting that and pricing that into the market. So if we ultimately see no change in interest rates at this next Fed meeting just tomorrow, then once again, they'll be relatively neutral. We'll likely see really no massive volatility, maybe just some small little moves. But if we somehow see that rate cut or somehow a rate hike, so any change in interest rates to the upside or to the downside, that is where we could potentially see some massive volatility if that were to actually happen tomorrow. And of course, if we see an interest rate cut, usually that's considered bullish for markets. And if we see an interest rate hike, so increasing interest rates, that's considered bearish. And even if we see the neutral outcome, the expected outcome of no change in interest rates at this next Fed meeting, roughly half an hour after we get the rate decision, the actual number that gets released, about half an hour after that, we have the Jerome Powell press conference where essentially the boss of the Federal Reserve answers some questions about potential Fed policy over the coming months in the next few Fed meetings. And depending on what is said in that press conference, once again, following roughly half an hour after the rate decision, that can also impact the markets, at least in the short term. So basically expect some short-term volatility around this time. Once again, pretty much exactly 1 day from now, just over 1 day from now at the time of posting this video, just expect a bit of short-term volatility. And as always, I will be sharing this number as soon as it gets released in real time over on my Twitter within a matter of seconds from this number being released. So if you want real-time updates throughout the day, like for example, when we have events like this, then check out my Twitter, link below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today here on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, at least for now, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And of course, on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a possible bearish divergence to watch out for, but not currently confirmed. And on this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, overall, we're still looking more bullish than bearish, but just in the shorter term, as I've already been saying for the last 1 to 2 weeks or so, we have been, of course, losing a bit of bullish momentum just in the short term as the price is cooling off, at least for now. And technically speaking, on this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, this bullish cup and handle pattern is still currently active with a bullish price target in play. But once again, this actually would invalidate if we see a confirmed break with candle closes back below 110,000. But at least for now, considering that's not yet happened, this means that this pattern is technically still active. And so overall, the larger timeframes have not really changed all that much over the last 1 day. We're still within a larger bull market, but just in the somewhat shorter term, losing a bit of bullish momentum, cooling off a little bit. And of course, that's thanks to the fact that we're running into significant resistance in that low 120K area. And so basically, anytime the price of Bitcoin gets close towards 120,000, and especially in between roughly 120,000 to 123,000, in around that area right there, obviously expect the price to struggle in that area, expect a lot of resistance in that area, as I've already been saying for weeks now on the channel, since much lower prices, since well before we even hit that area and started to struggle right there. And of course, what I've also been saying over the last 1 week or so is that we're already starting to see more of a bearish trend or pullback right now in the daily Bitcoin RSI. And the last time we saw something similar to this cooling off from overbought on the daily RSI was around near the end of May entering into June. And of course, what happened there in the price of Bitcoin was ultimately a little bit of a pullback, a cool off essentially potentially, but still during the larger bull market. As we can see right here, it was just a bit of a short-term setback during this much larger bullish trend. And so this is what I've been saying time and time again over the last 1 to 2 weeks. Once again, expect just a bit more of a cool off, which could likely last for the remainder of this month, maybe even the first half of next month, the first half of August, as a likely scenario for the next 1 or 2 weeks, potentially just cooling off, maybe playing out some choppy sideways price action or slight little pullback, but still getting ready for that next major move, considering at least for now, we're still within a larger bull market. We're just cooling off in the somewhat shorter term. And when it comes to short-term support and resistance to watch out for, looking at the 4-hour time frame, we still have support in this area based on previous price action in between around 116,000 to 117,000. And of course, more recently, we have found some support right here at around 117.5k. And in terms of resistance, expect a lot of resistance at around 119.4k, give or take. And especially once again, as we approach around 120,000, in between around 120,000 to 121,000, we have a lot of resistance around there. But we can clearly see that at least the short-term situation is simply lacking momentum to either direction. Obviously, we're seeing little short-term bullish moves and short-term bearish moves, but ultimately not really a lot of follow-through to either direction, at least for now. We're basically just bouncing around sideways in a somewhat sideways price range, as we can clearly see. And believe it or not, you can actually make a lot of profits during choppy sideways price action just like this. And if you want to know more about that, then stick around to the end of the video to find out more. But first, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. And right now, we still have a lot of liquidity building just above the price of Bitcoin at just above 120,000, around 120.3k. And that's really going up towards around 121,000. And so essentially right where this area of resistance is coming into play, we have a lot of liquidity right there. And so what this tells us is, at least based on the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, this means it is quite likely that maybe in the next few days or so, just in the shorter term, we could potentially see a slight little relief towards this liquidity right here, slight bullish relief, but then potentially once again starting to struggle around this area of resistance and maybe playing out another little rejection. Because usually, not always, but usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where there's a lot of liquidity, especially if it's relatively close to the price of Bitcoin. But even if we have this as a bit of a short-term price target, once again, we cannot ignore major points of resistance, which can also cause the price to struggle, which is why I'm saying maybe we see a little bit more of a short-term bullish relief, but then once again, expect a lot of struggle around this area, ultimately staying in this somewhat sideways price range for a little longer here. And so at least for now, that is still the situation for Bitcoin in the shorter term. But remember, this is still within a much larger bull market. And of course, this is the time where you need to be set up ready to go to take advantage of the next trading opportunity as soon as it happens. And personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX. So I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, you can claim up to $40,000 in trading bonuses. And also, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your BTNX account. But that massive bonus right there is only available if you use the link below this video to actually make your BTNX account. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using that first link below this video to take advantage of these major bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. And if you use the link below this video to make your 2bit account, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some massive trading and deposit bonuses. But right now, there's a massive trading competition happening over on 2bit, a $3 million trading competition. And I do actually have a Crypto World team registered in this competition. So if you want to, if you're trading crypto anyway, you might as well join the team, because we could potentially win some massive prizes here if we place well in this competition. And once again, if you use the link below this video to 2bit, you can also get some massive trading and deposit bonuses over there, but only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart here on the 3-day time frame, at least for now, technically speaking, the bearish divergence is still currently active. But in the shorter term, of course, we are running into some major support here, sitting in between around 60.5% to 61% in the Bitcoin dominance. And so what this actually means for the crypto market is that, at least for now, while the price is being held by this support here, essentially the altcoin season just in the shorter term is put on pause. Because in case you're new to all of this, the altcoin season is basically when we see a dump in the Bitcoin dominance like this. That essentially tells us that a lot of the major altcoins out there are outperforming Bitcoin, doing much better than whatever Bitcoin is doing. And then of course the opposite is when the Bitcoin dominance is bullish. That means Bitcoin is outperforming a lot of the altcoins. So it makes more sense to just simply hold Bitcoin rather than looking at the altcoin market when the Bitcoin dominance is bullish. So while the price is basically running into support here, while the Bitcoin dominance is running into support, but technically not yet invalidating the bearish divergence, once again, this means that at least in the shorter term, the altcoin season is put on pause, at least maybe temporarily. And so while the Bitcoin dominance is relatively neutral, just bouncing around a little bit sideways, trying to play out the bearish divergence, but held up by this support, ultimately this means a lot of altcoins are performing very similarly to whatever Bitcoin is doing. So not really outperforming or underperforming, at least for now, just on average. But with that being said, if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, and of course right now, and what I've already been saying just recently here on the channel, Ethereum is currently running into probably the most significant area of resistance on the price chart, sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k, so roughly around 4,000 and slightly either side of 4,000. Once again, we have significant resistance around there, as we can see time and time again for well over a year now. We've seen many significant rejections from this area on the price chart. And so we know that in the past, this has been an area where a lot of traders, a lot of investors have been taking a lot of profits on Ethereum. Usually after a major bullish move, we head towards this area, and then a lot of people start to dump their Ethereum to take profits out of Ethereum around this area. So potentially we do have that upcoming risk here in the short term that we need to consider. But if or when the price eventually breaks out above this area, so if we ultimately confirm candle closes above 4.1k ideally, and then actually holding above this area, in that situation, of course, that'll be extremely bullish for Ethereum. And honestly, I would expect a run towards at least around $5,000, towards the all-time record high for Ethereum. But once again, only if we first confirm a breakout and hold above this area, which at least for now has not yet happened. So there's still currently a risk of yet another rejection from this area, like we've seen many times in the past. And if we're taking a look at this daily Ethereum price chart, when it comes to support to watch out for, if we were to see another little rejection here, expect a lot of support at roughly 3.5k and also in between around 3.2k to 3.3k if the price were to actually get back down there. And on top of these levels to watch out for on the daily time frame, we also have a possible bearish divergence forming right now on the daily Ethereum price chart. And this bearish divergence is also visible on slightly smaller time frames like the 8-hour chart or the 12-hour chart, because we do have clear higher highs confirmed in the price in the candle closes, and of course lower highs currently forming in the Ethereum RSI. And so this is a possible warning signal to watch out for, because in case you're new to all of this, a bearish divergence basically tells us that we're losing bullish momentum. We're running out of steam in this bullish move here, at the same time as running into very significant resistance, which is the most likely area on the price chart where we'll likely see a rejection. Obviously not guaranteed, but in the past, this is exactly where the price is rejected from many times. And so at the same time as running into a very likely point on the price chart, likely to see a rejection, we're forming a warning signal telling us that we're starting to lose bullish momentum and showing a weakness, at least in the short term, for the next few days or weeks. And if we're simply looking at the last time we saw a bearish divergence on the daily Ethereum price chart, that was right around here, of course, where we were also running into a very significant area on the price chart, significant area of resistance, which back then was the golden pocket area of resistance in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. And for quite some time, we did struggle around that area before ultimately breaking out later on. And so we have to be aware of the fact that it's a very likely scenario. Once again, there's no such thing as a guarantee, but it's a very likely scenario that maybe over the next few weeks or so, we struggle a lot around this area, maybe play out this bearish divergence for a couple of weeks, maybe in the form of a little bit of a pullback here, and then get ready for that next major breakout above that significant area of resistance, kind of like what we saw back here at around 2.8k. And so if this situation starts starts to play out here in that more bearish scenario, just in the shorter term, once again, the larger trend is still currently bullish. So even if we play out a little bit of a pullback, I'm still bullish on the larger bull market, the larger trend. But if we see more confirmation here to actually further confirm the bearish divergence, personally, in my situation, I'll potentially look at opening maybe a short position to actually short potentially a little bit of a pullback at some point in the next few days or weeks if we see some more confirmation here for the bearish divergence. And then of course, if that were to start playing out, I'll look at potential points of support to take profits out of a short position and then start accumulating Ethereum at some slightly lower prices in order to basically get ready for that next major breakout if we ultimately continue the larger bullish trend. And so I'm just simply letting you know well in advance one very likely scenario, once again, not guaranteed, but if that scenario starts to actually further confirm here and starts to play out, I'm letting you know what I will be likely doing. And as always, I will be sharing that here on the channel very transparently if I start opening any new trades. And in case you're wondering, yes, my short-term Ethereum long position that I shared over the last few days is now closed. It's closed in profits. And obviously that was just a short-term trade as we were running into this significant resistance. And then as I said, before even taking that trade, I'll look at potentially around this resistance here, around especially 3.9K to start taking some profits out of that trade, which I did do and did show over the last few days. But right now that trade is now completely closed in profits, and I'll be looking out for that next trading opportunity potentially in the coming days here. And so definitely make sure you're subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos where I'm always sharing these trading opportunities, telling you and basically showing you how to easily make profits in this crypto market, no matter if the price is bullish or bearish. And of course, this is the time that is crucial to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange in order to take the next trading opportunity as soon as it happens. And once again, if you use the links below this video to those exchanges, you can claim some massive trading and deposit bonuses that are only available using those links. But with that being said, taking a look at Solana on the 2-day time frame, and at least for now, Solana is still struggling and starting to reject again from this significant area of resistance, still sitting in between roughly 190 to 200. And so obviously there's a bit of a theme right now in the market, in the crypto market, that just in the shorter term, we're simply in a cool off phase in the market, resetting a little bit after previously a major bullish move over the last few weeks. Now, technically speaking, we're still within a larger bullish trend or bull market, whatever you want to call it, forming higher lows and higher highs. But of course, during these larger bullish trends, we can see some decent pullbacks along the way or cool offs here and there. So keep that in mind. And when it comes to support and resistance, of course, once again, we still have a lot of resistance in between 190 to 200. And if we actually confirm a breakout above, ideally 200 with candle closes above that level and actually holding above that area as new support, in that situation, I would expect to move up towards roughly $230 as the next major price target and point of resistance. But remember, at least for now, we're still finding a lot of resistance at around 190 to 200. And when it comes to support to watch out for, we do have some short-term support at roughly $180. But if we start breaking below that level, expect more support at around 167. And honestly, the most likely scenario for Solana, at least in the short term, is a little bit more weakness. So either at best, a bit of neutral price action bouncing around sideways, or potentially a little bit more likely just a slight pullback here. Not necessarily a major crash or anything. Technically, we're still within a larger bull market. We're just simply seeing a bit of a cool off, a slight bit of weakness right now as we're running into significant resistance just in the shorter term. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, in the shorter term, it's a similar situation. Obviously, we're seeing a little bit of weakness in the short term, pulling back, and we're most likely going to see another retest of this significant level on the price chart here based on this previous significant Fibonacci level, which was previous resistance and is now acting as new support, and that's sitting at around $3. So expect a lot of support at roughly $3. And of course, also on the weekly time frame, despite the fact that we're still seeing higher lows and higher highs, technically still within a larger bullish trend if we're looking at the price action alone. But while that is forming, of course, we're seeing significant lower highs in the weekly XRP RSI, which is a significant bearish divergence currently forming and something to pay attention to, because especially if we see some extra confirmation here with this weekly candle close that's currently forming, if this confirms in the red at the end of this week, then that will now be 2 confirmation signals potentially at the end of this week confirming the bearish divergence. And if that ultimately happens at the end of this week, week, a second confirmation signal here, then in that situation, honestly, maybe over the next few weeks, maybe even for a period of months, but at least a period of weeks, we will likely see a larger cool off for the price of XRP, either a larger sideways consolidation or potentially more of a pullback in the coming weeks as a very likely scenario if we see more confirmation here for this significant bearish divergence at the end of this week. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, at least in the somewhat shorter term, the price is basically just bouncing around sideways in a sideways price range, which is exactly what I've already been saying the price will do over the last half a week to almost 1 week now. Basically, just after we saw that break back below around $3.30 to $3.40, when we saw that drop right there, from that point onwards, once again, for the last, let's just say 5 days or so, I've been saying expect a lot of choppy sideways price action, relatively neutral, just playing out some short-term bullish moves and short-term bearish moves within this area on the price chart. And so obviously that's already been perfectly playing out as predicted, and I continue to expect more of this type of price action, at least for the next few days, just in the shorter term, bouncing around in this sideways price range. And the range I'm talking about is in between this level of support and this level of resistance. So ultimately we have a lot of support at around $2.90 to $3. That's the support, and a lot of resistance in between around $3.30 to $3.40. And so basically just continue to expect bounces around this area of support and rejections around this area of resistance. But let's just say if we see some more confirmation here to confirm this larger bearish divergence, and let's just say in the coming days or weeks the price ultimately breaks below around $2.90 to $3, if that were to actually confirm, in that situation would likely see a drop down towards this significant area here, which will likely act as significant support sitting in between around $2.55 to $2.60. But just in the somewhat shorter term, once again, I do expect a little bit more choppy sideways price action in this sideways price range, just in the immediate short term here. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, right now Chainlink is once again testing this significant area on the price chart, which previously has been very significant resistance, and more recently over the last 1 to 2 weeks has been significant support for the price, and that's sitting in between around $17.50 to $18. And of course, while the price is holding above this area, technically we're still looking okay here in the shorter term, obviously still lacking bullish momentum, but not really looking significantly bearish or anything like that. And technically the larger trend is still currently bullish, but if the price actually confirms candle closes on the daily time frame back below $17.50, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, flipping it into new resistance, in that situation honestly would likely see around a $2 drop towards the downside, towards roughly $15.50 as the next major price target. But once again, only if we first confirm a break below around $17.50. And so that could also be another short-term trading opportunity to possibly open a short position. Once again, if we first confirm a break below $17.50, and then especially if we reject from that level, flipping it into new resistance, once again, that could potentially be an entry signal to open a short position and then taking profits closer towards around $15.50 to $16. As always, not financial advice. I'm just pointing out a possible trading opportunity here if we see that confirmed break. And so no matter if the price is bullish or bearish, we can trade in either direction to profit no matter what the price is doing. And in terms of resistance, I would expect a lot of resistance as we approach around $20, and really in between $20 to $21, expect a lot of resistance around there. And as I said earlier in the video, make sure you're set up ready to go to take advantage of these next trading opportunities as soon as they happen. So get set up ready to go using those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit during choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.